All right, future CPA. So I'm here with my buddy John, who just passed the CPA exam. So welcome, John, and I'm excited to hear your story about passing the CPA exam.
Well, thank you so much for having me today. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, that's a good-looking shirt you got on there.
It
So
I kind of like this. My wife was even admiring it. She saw it before she had to head out this morning, saying it looked really nice and was really impressed with it.
well, I mean, being a CPA exam survivor, it is a real thing, and you're part of an elite club now. And so, just to kind of start off, I love asking people, where were you? Who was around you? Did you scare anyone when you were checking your final score and when you found out you passed the exam?
Well, it was kind of funny because originally I was thinking it was normally most nights NASBA puts them out at the same time, but they started posting we're going to be late tonight. So my wife and I were sitting at the dinner table talking about what we're going to do the next day. I said, let me just go check it real quick and see if it finally dropped. And it was actually I took them in series of the ones I thought were going to be the easiest. I took first, and what I perceived to be the hardest last. So I was like, if I'm gonna have to retake, this is going to be one of the ones. But no, I was kind of surprised, and but happily surprised at the same time. Just worked the plan and continued to work the plan, and it was a very successful in that regard.
Sure. So when you checked your scores, did you yeah, or was this during dinner or where were you when you checked?
My wife was actually more excited than I was. I think I was just relieved, for lack of a better term. I think I was like, okay, I don't have to do anything else. I can actually just sit back, and now I can actually think about applying for licensure. The thing I said I'm not going to think about until I get to this day.
Sure,
So
sure.
yeah, I mean, I thought, yeah, somebody, I could have jumped for joy. My wife was doing that for me, and I was just sitting there thinking, okay, what's the next steps? What do I got to do now? Let's get to the finish line. But yes, it was very exciting to actually get there. I had no idea how long it was going to take me when I started. I said I'm going to just do it till I get done, and it was a great night. It was of course, when I did it, I took it the week before Christmas because in my work environment, my busy season is based around quarters and years in. So I had to go. Basically, I took it about 2 weeks before the score, 2 to 3 weeks before score drop, and I just worked straight nonstop right after I took the exam. Right after I took the exam, then I went to Christmas, a little Christmas break, and then I worked for about 2.5 weeks. And so I literally just finished work not an hour before I looked at that score, and I said, all right, now I can actually enjoy the new year
There you go.
with that kind of score. And, everything worked out well, and, working with your plan and working with the CPA developer, the plan I've been working with, it just made it smooth to get there. And I was just really happy to see that happen.
Sure. So let's back up a little bit. So maybe share a little bit of your background on where you started, like what you graduated from college, and then kind of work up to where you are now.
And I know I'm mid-career. I'm 20 years in, and some people say, well, does that mean you were doing something else and you went back to college and now you're going to be a CPA? Like, no, actually, I got my bachelor's and master's in accounting back in the late 1990s.
Okay.
That's a century for those who keep track at home. So I've been out almost 21 years now, working almost all that time professionally in industry. Never worked a day in a tax or audit practice in my life, and might have used maybe a quarter to a third of what was on the CPA exam in my professional life. So a lot of that material, the majority of it, 2/3, maybe even more than 2/3, I had not seen since I worked on my master's, that I got in 1999.
Okay.
So it was like, and the kicker was so much of that material had evolved, so much of the literature had evolved, especially on the part I'd not been working in. And that was a real eye opener in some areas.
Yeah,
Go ahead.
and I was going to say what I love about the CPA review course companies is that they teach you exactly what you need to know on the exam. So if you're somebody who's listening and you're like John and you haven't been in college for a long time and you're scared about all the new material and stuff, it's like they really teach you very concisely what you
Mhm.
need to know on the exam. And was that your experience at least?
That was my experience, and also mine would also occasionally come back and say, if you went to school years ago, you would have learned it this way, and this is the way they teach it now. So there would be a nice natural flow. Now I tend to be a more visual learner,
Okay.
uh, although the repetition was becoming visual, but also getting that visual repetition, also learning to where those breaks occurred, but also trying at the same time also trying to figure out how to keep myself focused, how to keep myself always thinking on the next step, on the next what I need to do to get myself in the right place mentally in all aspects for that exam day. So I needed somebody that would not only prepare me with the material, but also help me stay on track on making sure that I'm not trying to drink from a fire hydrant, that I'm actually doing this in a rational way that reinforces it on a constant basis.
Yep.
And
Yep. And
that's what I needed, and that's what I got working through your program.
yeah, and that's exactly why I created Ultimate CPA Exam Guide, because there just isn't a lot of guidance out there. Because when I was working full time, trying to figure everything out on my own, it was overwhelming, and I just kept looking at the big picture, and then I would get stressed out, and then just not study efficiently. But when you break things down into just small bite-sized pieces, just take it one step at a time, and then constantly look back and review everything, I found that that's a system that seems to work for almost everyone that applies it.
And I'll be honest, at first I liked your system, but I was like, it really can't be that easy, can it? And at first I kind of hesitated, saying, well, let me just try a mix of his and a mix of what I've done in the past. And I just squeaked by on my very first section doing it that way. And then I said, okay, I really need to go ahead and go full throttle. And I did on the second, third, fourth. Actually, I scored higher every single exam section I took. As I got the second one was a higher score than the first, third was higher than the second, fourth was higher than the third. And that's because I became very methodical, or maybe ruthless, about how I just addressed it and worked the program, and also worked with and I got yours through a partnership program. So I was working with your program, but also working the material, and trying to be consistent with that, and also stay true to it. Because one of my big fears was, because so many people are out there saying, well, you can sign up for, you could pick any of them, Wiley or Surgeon or any of them, and then also get a second one. So I'm working on one, because I talked to somebody who was trying to do two different ones at once.
Nope.
I was like, are you not drowning in that? Because I did mine just through one. I didn't pick multiple ones, although I saw a lot of companies are trying to do cross promotions and cross tie-ins. I was, like I said, I'm one of these mid-career guys who was already struggling with 20 years of literature changes, trying to get those caught up, let alone trying to drown in more study and in more new material, which I can understand, because back when I, back when I got out of school, I didn't know what I was going to. I'm like you. When I first graduated, I would have had no clue. Just show up, take the exam, and pray. Would have
Yep.
been
I call that
done.
the study and pray method.
The study and pray method. That's what it would have been for me if I had passed when I first got out of school, and it would have been a divine miracle if I'd have passed that way.
Yeah, yeah. Well, and that's, some people like myself, I had a massive ego. I was like, oh, I'm going to figure this out on my own. And, but it's not worth it to take that risk. So why not take a shortcut, find somebody who's figured out how to teach people how to pass, who understands how a CPA review course works, and then kind of just borrow their information and apply it to yourself. And that's ultimately what I try to do with Ultimate CPA Exam Guide, is help you identify how you learn, and then teach you what worked for myself, what didn't work for myself, so that it's just easier for you to have somebody make those difficult decisions for you, essentially.
Well, and that was the thing and I'm probably not too different from a lot of people that go out. I started looking at all the various programs that are out there, and actually came across you by way of the cross promotion that you wound up having with some of them. I actually wasn't thinking about how am I going to learn, how am I going to process, how am I going to deal with all the issues that come with the study. I was just looking at which package has the best pass rates and which one has the best reputation for the
Right.
profession. And then once I got to that, then that's when I started saying, okay, so what am I going to do? And then when I saw the cross promotions, that's kind of when I really started identifying what you had to bring to the table.
Yep. Yep. Yeah. So that's awesome. I'm glad to hear that the cross promotions are working. So that's exciting. So I guess, so having a mentor, it's definitely very important. But somebody like me, I can't sit right next to you all the time. But there are people in your life, and I call these people accountability partners. So, did you have accountability partners who kind of checked in on you to make sure you were, not mentally going insane and isolating yourself in a room and so forth?
I've got another colleague at work who's just a few years younger than me, who actually took the CPA exam and passed it himself, and he would check in with me just to make sure I was not going stir crazy. But also at the same time, for an accountability partner, I'm also married in a household where we were good about, we tried to outsource as much as we could to kind of simplify our lives, but my wife took it upon herself to do a lot of things that I would have helped her with or do myself in the past. So to me, I felt like that made myself accountable to her for all that extra time and effort and energy she was putting into the relationship, just so we could get through the exam, or rephrase it, so I could get through the exam for us.
Yep.
So that to me was a way that I needed to be at least accountable to her, because if she's going to be willing to stop and spend less time with her friends and do things that she would like to help cover for me, I had to honor that and make sure I was putting 110% into what I was doing on this.
Yep.
Uh, and that was, I've been in other kind of environments where I've had to lean on her and she's had to lean on me, but this was definitely probably one of the tougher stretches. It was, we did it for just under a year. Mind you, we got caught up in, we're taping this in the middle of the COVID pandemic of 2019, 2020. I was scheduled to sit, and Prometric shut down on me and all kind of things. And we were always thinking, well, maybe we'll get this done in less than a year. It took us about a year, and I still to this day thank her. And not trying to get too silly about it, but I didn't realize she had a prayer chain going for me this entire time too.
Oh, that's
Where
cool.
we had prayer chains for every time I'd go sit for exams. She told me I had about 20 people that were praying for me, which I did not even know I had at the time. I guess it's some, so there's all this kind of accountability, and there's things in the background that people that you trust and they're going to do the right thing that you're around. And I was very fortunate. Everybody that did what I expected they would do, because I think I tried to make sure I did as they expected I would do.
Sure.
So it's just kind of so when I think about accountability, I also think about me being accountable to the people who've helped me along the way too, and not wanting to let myself down or let them down for not putting in 110%.
Yeah, and I mean, honestly, the CPA exam is such an investment in your future. I mean, that's really what it is. It's a temporary time and monetary investment, but then once you pass the exam, it's just going to pay dividends for the rest of your career. And I've just seen it time and
Agree.
time again. Like every CPA I know, it's just changed their lives. So,
I will say that at my workplace, I've got several managers above me, and they knew that I was doing this, and I had some saying good luck, and then I had some tell me afterwards, congratulations. They didn't know if the 20-year gap in the literature was going to get the better of me.
mhm.
Now they didn't say a negative word when I told them I was going to do it, but there were some mixed expectations out there,
Sure.
and I know that has definitely raised my profile at work.
Oh, for sure.
Now, of course, I'm also, and this is maybe a rare instance, I passed at Christmas. They had a board meeting. The state board, my jurisdiction, meets quarterly. They did a meeting around January the 1st, and then they're adjourning till after busy season is over. So I've got about a 90 days where I'm just enjoying the time, getting to visit with you and others, and talking a little bit about what I've done. And I'm actually hopeful I may have inspired one or two at work where I work to take that next step, because I think I'm a fan of competition. I'm a fan of trying to make sure that it makes me always work harder.
Sure. Yeah, send them my way. I'd love to help them. Let's see what. Yeah, so I guess I'd love to know. Now that you've achieved this goal of passing the CPA, how are you going to use the CPA to improve your career? I mean,
Those conversations have already started about what kind of jobs. I do work for a Fortune 500. We have a very large accounting team. We also have various teams that need business analysts and other financial expert level knowledge. And there are opportunities, and there are some different directions I can go. I've always traditionally been just a degreed accountant with a non-CPA degreed accountant working through a standard hierarchy. But now all of a sudden, when you get your CPA license, it does give you some flexibility to say, what if I went this direction or that direction? So yes, I've already had two different people at work already inquire what would I like to do, because this also tells them if you're especially if you're mid-career taking on such an animal like the CPA exam, that you're just not looking to fill time, that you're actually looking to actually continue to grow and evolve your role in the company, but also your capabilities.
right.
That's a clear signal to management, especially. Yes, everyone should do it, whether you're a year or two out of college. But if you're mid-career, that does stand out to a lot of managers.
Yeah, and I mean, it's great to have a master's degree, but almost everyone has a master's degree. So if you have 20 years of experience plus a CPA, you're
Mm-hmm.
going to be the leg up on
Yeah,
almost anyone who doesn't have a CPA. Even if
you
they
are.
have more experience than you, then they're going to take a second look at you.
You're going to be able to prove to, and the thing is, especially in the Fortune 500 world, and like I said, some of your potential students may never have worked in that. Most of the senior managers in the accounting functions are going to be CPAs in a
Hmm.
Fortune 500 environment, especially in the one I'm in. And so it's not a big club, because a lot of people don't realize, just like the big four recruit in colleges, a lot of industry recruits right out of college too. And so there's a potential you could go to a Fortune 500 where you may only see, and this is from my personal experience, maybe 10 to 20% of the degreed accountants are CPAs, and the rest of them are just really smart people right out of college who didn't necessarily want to go into audit or tax, but they wanted to work in a general accounting type environment. And that was the world I spent most of my career in. So there was never a requirement. Oh, John, you need to go get your CPA license. It was like, if you want it, then we can talk about other things you can do.
Yep.
But you can continue to do what you want to do as long as you stay in your lane. You can stay in your lane the next 20, 30 years. But if you want to think beyond that, that's when your license kicks in.
Yeah, that's a great point because I call it a dead end accounting job, but I mean it was a pretty decent job before I passed the exam,
Mhm.
and then I loved it. I was working with a good team, great people, but then when I passed the exam, I went to my boss and I was like, hey, can you pay me 5,000 more or just anything just to incentivize me to stay, and they
Yeah.
weren't willing to do that. So I that basically left me in a situation where I was like, all right, well, I have to find something new, and that requires change, and change can be scary. So, when you're planning on taking the CPA, you really do need to think about, okay, what is my ultimate goal? Like, will I be okay moving to a different city if that requires moving to a new job?
Mhm.
Like, what is it about having the CPA? What are my not only salary goals but quality of life goals too? Like, are you going to start your own business? Will you work for a Fortune 500? Will you want to go to something a little bit slower paced? These are the decisions that you need to make
Mhm.
before you even start the CPA exam process. So
Oh, I totally agree. You will have opportunities. You will, and of course, nowadays with LinkedIn and all the other social media platforms, once you put CPA out there, and this is talking to other associates who've done this mid-career, I'm waiting to make sure the state board signs off on mine, like every good candidate would. But I've had several say their LinkedIn profile lit up like a Christmas tree once they put their CPA license out there on it.
yep,
That all sudden that drew attention from headhunters that were looking for people that have experience that have their license now.
exactly.
Uh, so I would expect that's fairly normal these days.
Sure, absolutely. I'm just curious. Do you work with any CMAs? I get asked a lot about CPA
We,
versus CMA.
we we've had some. It's a very small number. It tends to be more I'm in a non-manufacturing environment. It's more of a retail convenience store retail environment. But yes, when we've actually had divisions where they had a manufacturing component, and we had some folks at a time with that. But that's more if you want to get into a manufacturing process. I've seen the benefits for that, but if you're not into manufacturing, there may be benefits. I just have not personally seen those firsthand.
Okay. Yeah, and I mean, at the end of the day, the CPA is a universal license. Like every
Right.
people outside of accounting know what a CPA is. So,
And I would say I'm like a lot of others these days. I'm also looking to do additional differentiate, if I can get the word out, differentiate myself a little bit, looking at some of those additional add-on designations. Those would be there's a lot of them. If you want to drill down into certain subsets of accounting, they're not always AICPA issued. So the rigor may not be as difficult or as tough, but it's something. There's people who do fraud examiners, or where I work, I have people that are licensed fraud examiners, or they're licensed valuation, have valuation licenses. So all these kind of secondary, but the thing is, they all are CPAs first.
right,
Then they added that as an additional enhancement to their CPA.
right.
So I'm looking at those. That's kind of that next step after the CPA is look to what can I do to add. I've seen a few do it without doing a CPA, but they have their options I've seen in the corporate world are far more limited than if they go on CPA first, then they go ahead and add that additional
Right.
licensure.
So yeah, the CPA, it'll open the doors to get you in anywhere, and then like the CIA, like for internal audit or enrolled agent, like if you choose a path, then obviously you want to become specialized. So,
Right.
and that's currently the path that I see.
And that's kind of that. I'm trying to evaluate. That's my next step, is just trying to evaluate which of those paths I want to go down, and which of those paths my company would see more avenues and opportunities if I wanted to stay, or whatever would happen.
Sure, sure. Cool. Well, is there any other final shots, thoughts that you had to share with people who may be struggling with the CPA or are scared to even start the process?
I would, well, first of all, I will say this. I was scared when I started. Everybody is a little bit. I think if you're not scared, you're probably lying to yourself, or trying to fool yourself a little bit. Um, I thought long and hard on it. I decided to lay out a plan and stick to that plan. And I barely got through my modified plan my first go around. Then I doubled down on what you were teaching and all the things that especially your study guides, and especially some of the ways to use the study guides. That's when I really actually started it. And I think I mentioned earlier, I took the exams. The one I thought was easiest first, that was the one I barely passed doing a modified. But then the one I perceived as being the hardest one, I got the high score on after I really got methodical about using your plan tied in with the literature from the CPA partner firm you have to work with. And I was impressed. I basically said yes. And honestly, I wish I'd used that when I was a master's candidate back in graduate school. But yeah, I appreciate you invite me on. And I do hope more people use it. Like I said, it was not the first thing I thought of. I first thought of, well, who's got the highest pass rate? That was where a
There,
lot of people think,
and those numbers are bogus. Like that, like it. There's so much incentive to fudge the numbers, and it's impossible to track too. So
well,
unless there's an independent auditor auditing the past numbers, I don't trust them.
I, I tend to agree with you. What I relied on was there were a few people that did do the online processes with the various ones, and I
Mhm.
talked to them about their personal
Yeah.
experiences. And that's how I picked the one I picked, and I think I was fortunate because I think I mentioned even earlier that they had a package relationship with you, and that's what got me to say, okay, let me look at what this guy's talking about and what this, is it, because, some people like me are going to walk in and say, oh, if I just put my head in the book or put my head in the videos, that's all I've got to do.
Yep.
But it's a lot more of a mental chess than that. And you've really got to think through what you're doing. And I'm just glad I used your program, because I think that prevented me from having to do I didn't take a retake on my 4. I went straight through, and I think I probably would have been taking retakes, by that plural, if I had not had a methodology like yours to work with. So I
Thank
appreciate
you.
it.
No, yeah, that's I love hearing that. That's great. Cool. So yeah, your story is very inspiring. I love hearing non-traditional CPA candidates go in, just tackle this exam, get it done. So I know that you're going to inspire a lot of people who are listening today. So really appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
All right. Thank you, John. Appreciate it. Hope you have a great day.
Thanks.
Hey, future CPA, thank you so much for listening in on my amazing interview here. And I hope that you're inspired. I hope you're motivated. And I hope that you are somebody who understands the value of having a CPA exam mentor. And if you're somebody who doesn't have one, if you're struggling with the CPA exam, then you are definitely a good fit to work with me to understand and learn how to pass the CPA exam and learn all those soft skills that the CPA Review Course companies and college just didn't prepare you for. And so the simplest way to determine if you're a good fit to work with me is to head over to mycpamentor.com. So basically I've got the page pulled up here on the screen, and it's a simple application. Just answer a few questions. Once you submit the application, then we'll provide you with some tailored advice on what we think you need to be doing to improve in your situation. And then if you're a good fit for our mentorship program, we'll let you know. And if you're a good fit, then the next step will be to head over to our informational page. So basically, what is Ultimate CPA Exam Guide? How is this mentorship program going to help you? Is it right for you? And all those nitty-gritty details. So basically, at a high level, Ultimate CPA Exam Guide is for brand new and struggling CPA candidates alike. It's going to give you the blueprint to go from hoping that you're doing this right to knowing that you are. And then the way that we do this is through 3 primary ways. So there's going to be some online training modules. So this is going to be pre-recorded videos that I've put together that will teach you everything I know about passing the CPA exam. And so basically this is just a one-time thing. You go through it, understand my philosophies, have the study checklists, the planners, and everything ready to go. And then you can dive into the CPA exam process with confidence, knowing that you're doing everything that you need to do. And then on top of that, we also provide some personalized support. So these are snapshot mentorship sessions. So basically this is a very in-depth questionnaire that you fill out, and then based on what you share about your current situation, then I'll put together videos, send them right to you, addressing each and every struggle that you currently have. And then we also have this amazing private community with over 1,000 CPA candidates in there. And as you heard from the interview, having a community of CPA candidates who isn't a coworker, who isn't a college roommate, it's crucial to your success, because you want to have a safe place to go to ask those questions that you might feel dumb for asking, but then we'll have no judgment because everyone's in the same shoes. You'll be guaranteed to be able to find somebody using your CPA review course, somebody who's in your industry and is experiencing exactly what you're going through. So if you're a single mom with kids trying to figure out how to pass this exam, there's going to be a group of gals there to help you. If you're a dad working full-time with a family and kids and just trying to juggle a bunch of knives, essentially, there's going to be a group of those dads as well who are there to support you. So again, having community is crucial. You don't want to do this alone, and having a mentor to teach you how to study is going to be crucial to your success. So what kind of guarantees do we have? Well, basically, you're going to receive unlimited mentorship support until you pass if you enroll in Ultimate CPA Exam Guide. We also have a 30-day guarantee that we will transform you from a struggling CPA candidate to somebody who is confident in their ability to pass, or your money back. So we take your success very seriously, and if we don't transform how you're tackling this exam, your mental mindset about this process in the first 30 days, then I don't deserve your money, and I want you to ask for a refund. So there's also, again, the moderated study group. So I'm in the study group all day long, answering questions, deleting things that aren't relevant, and so forth. So it's a moderated group, which is very unique to the industry. And I also have a crack team of CPA exam experts who are available 24/7 for you. So if this sounds like something that would be very valuable to you, then I strongly urge you to apply over at mycpamentor.com. We'd love to have you in the community. I know we can help you crack the code to passing the CPA exam.